All right, in this video, we are going to work on the sum13 problem out of the list 2 problem set in the Python version of Coding Bat. It says return the sum of the numbers in the array, returning 0 for the empty array, except the number 13 is very unlucky, so it does not count, and the numbers that come immediately after a 13 also do not count. Okay, so what we want to do is one thing we could do, right, is just return some nums, right? And that will just add up all of the numbers in the array, okay? That's not going to work. You can see it works sometimes, right? If the array doesn't have a 13 in there, it works fine. But if it has a 13, right, then what we'll need to do is to get rid of that. So we probably could make this work somehow, but I'm just going to do it a different way. So I'm going to make a variable called total, right, and keep track of the total, and then set up a for loop to go over it. In this time, I'm not going to use a range object, right? I am just going to have this variable num, right? And that's going to have the numbers in there. And then what I'm going to do is keep a running total. Every time I'm going to go through, I'm going to do total equals total plus num. All right. And so what that's going to do is every time, right, that we go to a new number in this for loop, you know, this for loop is going to take every number that's in this list, input list nums, and it's going to put it into this variable. And then what this line is going to do is take that number and add it to this total, and then save that number back into the total, into the variable total. So each time, right, what this does is it adds that num to the total. So in the end, once you go over the entire list in this for loop, the variable total has the total amount in here of all the numbers added together. And then you would just return that. So that's a lot like what we just did. You can see nothing really changes over here. We were using the built-in sum function in order to do that, but now we're just kind of doing it ourselves. And the reason why we're doing it ourselves this way is so that we can have some control over it. So we already know that we don't want to add these the number 13, right, to this total. So in order to prevent the 13 from being added in there, what we would do is have a little if statement here. If num, right, is not equal to 13, then don't add it into the total. And you can see we might pick up a few more cases right here, like this one. On this third case over here, right, it was we got 19, and the correct answer was 6. So that should fix that case. All right, so you can see it's not counting the 13s in there anymore. But the problem is that it is now counting. We get some more cases here, but for instance, in this one, it's not counting this 13 or this 13, but it's still counting this 2 right here, and that's a problem, right? So what we need to do is to kind of do something else. I just want to skip that 2. There's a couple ways that we could do that, but to me, the easiest way is just to increase the counter right here. Okay, but we can't do that if we're using this kind of loop. Okay, so what I'm going to do is change this to a different loop. Okay, so while, I'm going to use a while loop, while, and in order to do that, I'm going to declare a variable called I and put 0 in there. And so I'll do while I is less than the length of nums. Okay. Now the problem with doing that is now the variable num is gone anymore. So what we'll have to do is slice, and to do that, and we'll change num to num's I, right, wherever we see it. So that should give us the same results here. Oops. And the problem is I forgot to increase the value of I, which I do that quite often. So also we're going to have to increase the value of I, otherwise, right, this condition is never going to be met, and we'll get stuck in an infinite loop there. So now we should get the same results that we were having before. Okay, so so now it's may seem like a pain to have to redo it this way, but now that issue right here where we wanted to skip the number after the 13 is pretty easy, because if nums is not equal to 13, right, it adds it in here. And all we would need to do is add an else condition here, else. So if nums is not equal to 13, it adds this total in here, right? If it is equal to 13, what we want to do is just increase the counter by 1, right? And increasing that counter by 1 will cause it to skip over, right, the number that comes after the 13. So here we go, and there we go. That's what we needed to do. Okay. All right, and so that is it on that one.